I just can't say enough good things. They have so many other credentials, but they are also podcasters. They have a podcast. And the podcast is titled, this is a long title for me, 25 year look across the spectrum with Kelly Bermingham and Jen Lucero. So that's a long title, but you'll understand why once we talk to them about why that's a necessary title, because why would we be looking back 25 years? But our guests today are Kelly Bermingham and Jen Lucero. Jen's been on the show before. Jen is one of our favorite people. She's been on the show many times before. She's an amazing mom who's done great work with many different organizations. And right now, where she's making a difference is with the Special Olympics organization. I just love her. Jen's one of those people that I've missed because I haven't been going to events, and normally that is where I see Jen, and she is like coming home when I see her. She's just an amazing person with an amazing spirit. And I can't wait for her to talk to us about all the things. Her son, Big D, is also an amazing human being on the planet. And I cannot remember. I know your other son, Jen, is it Ethan or Ian? It's one of those names, Ian or some, which I don't know. It's one of those names that I can't remember until his face is right in front of me. But I also want to say Kelly Bermingham. It's Ethan. Thank you. Okay, I knew I was in the neighborhood. He is an incredible human being too, because I think that siblings are the best people on the face of the earth, and he's an example of that. So we'll talk about him as well. But Kelly, it's Kelly's first time here on the show, and I think I'd met Kelly before, but I met Kelly in person for the first time in a long time the other day while I was in the middle of the live stream with the paper session, and I can't do two things at the same time, so I apologize in advance. But Kelly is amazing. She's a BCBA in the field of autism, and I love what these guys are bringing in their podcast because it's very unique, and we're going to talk about that. But Kelly, oh my gosh, what has Kelly not done? She's been a BCBA since 2003, which means she's one of our pioneers. She also is a published author. You want to check out her book, Social Skills Solutions: A Hands-On Manual. Have you been asking for this? Yes, you have. And now I've told you about it. She's certified ESDM certified therapist. She's a peers certified therapist. We talk about peers all the time. She's worked for so many and written for so many organizations, including Autism Speaks. Like there's just too much to say about Kelly because she's absolutely fabulous. So these two amazing women are doing this podcast, and you got to check it out. I even this morning I was listening to it on Spotify. They're remarkable, and they're bringing a special flavor to this arena that I love. So let's get them in here so they can talk. And there is a link in the description to the podcast. Let me say that. So hello, Jennifer and Kelly.
Shannon.
Hi.
Hey, Shannon.
It's so good to see you guys. First of all, let's start by talking about this podcast and how it started and what the flavor is that you guys are bringing. I have much praise, but I want you guys to talk about it too. Who wants to go first?
You go, Kelly.
Yeah, I'll go first. So, Jen and I have known each other for a very long time. Ethan was diagnosed at 3.5, 4. Dr. Joe Donnelly at UCI sent her my way, and I started working with Jen and Dylan and Ethan when he was first diagnosed. And then we transitioned that over to another provider. And because of Jen's work with Autism Speaks, and my work at the UCI Center for Autism, we then started working together rather than not just working and talking about Dylan, but we started working together. And then just through all her projects and my projects, we just always kept bringing each other back into our work. And when the pandemic hit and we couldn't see each other and we couldn't talk to each other, we started Zooming and talking. And then we just started talking about different things, both in our work and then about Dylan, frankly. He's 22 years old now. And we've been through everything together, our personal lives, Dylan's lives, Ethan's lives. And just over Zoom, we started thinking like, well, what if we recorded this and people heard the perspective of myself as a BCBA, Jen as a mom and advocate and, amazing person in the community. And we started talking about topics from both of those perspectives and just two people talking about what was happening. And so that's how it happened. And we're low tech, where our content is great, but we're just,
Content is king.
yeah,
Content is king.
this is so fancy, Shannon, what we're on right now. Jen
Oh,
and I are just two Zoomers.
well, can I tell you, this is not fancy at all. I'm in the back room in my house, but we are moving back into our studio next month, and then we will be
Oh, great.
fancy. We're in a new
Good.
studio, and then we will
Awesome.
be super fancy. But we've all been low tech.
Hmm.
I can show you how to do this. This is easy. This is nothing. I don't want to say nothing. Restream has been lovely to us, but it's super low tech, is what I'm trying to say to you. But anyway, so Jen, yeah, I just feel like I
Gosh,
haven't seen you
Lily.
in
I
forever.
missed
If
you. I'm
I
so
know.
happy.
I just would love to wrap my arms around you. So and excited that there was this way to sort of keep a little bit in touch with what you were doing and how things were going, and to hear updates about Big D.
Mhm.
Because we didn't get to see you. I only ever see you at events.
I know, and it's like what having you at all the events is like the highlight, and
Oh, stop it.
I always feel like you're a partner in crime. So yeah, it's been a weird couple of years, hasn't it?
Yeah, it certainly has.
But we're
And
all
it
still standing. So
yes, but it's
yeah,
still super weird, can I just say?
yes, it is
Uh
strange.
so we've gotten a couple of questions and comments that have come in already. Kelly, tell them again what the name of your book is.
Sure. It's an older book. I wrote that in 2003, the same year
Wow.
I became a BCBA. I still use it. I still use all the social skill checklist. It's called, you can find it on Amazon. The best version is the electronic version at this point. And if you Google my name, but it's a hands on solution, a hands on manual for social skills solutions. And so
Wonderful.
most people know me as someone who has sort of always done social skill groups, right? In 2004, I started my practice here in California, Kelly McKinnon and Associates, and we did group ABA long before group ABA was a thing. I sort of felt like I was making it up as I was going along, but we used the checklist from this book, and then and to this day, I still use it in my practice where I am now.
Amazing. And so talk a little bit about the topics that you guys take on the podcast. Because I feel like there's going to be at least one person out there that's going to say, I don't understand why, you would have another podcast on. First of
Yeah.
all, there are so many podcasts and that I love and that I listen to, and everyone explains things in a different way, and every podcast has its own flavor. I particularly think that we're a good pairing. Talk about
Mhm.
pairing, that we're a good pairing when we talk about it in the wine sense, because I feel like and correct me if I'm wrong, on Autism Live, we started out as being something that would just be for parents and caregivers. And then we discovered, oh my gosh, there's more people that want to listen to that. But we are always coming from the point of view of like making sure that we can explain it to someone who loves someone on the spectrum. And I feel like for you guys, that you kind of started on the flip, that it was maybe a little bit more for professionals, but that you always wanted to make it accessible for the people who love people on the spectrum and people on the spectrum themselves. But that you guys are looking at things through it's the same lens, but it's a different color. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. But so talk about what some of your topics are, and so people know why they should come over and listen to you guys. I think you're doing a great job.
Well, we're hoping to be number two. You'll always be number one.
I don't know about that. Come get me. You know I would be happy and thrilled if you guys came. I'd be happy to be two to your one, honestly. So come get me.
Well, no, I mean, so my nickname out in the field is the practical BCBA, right? I'm not the researcher. I am the one who's talking about what are we going to do right now with what's happening right now, which is why I know you and I have always used your jargon of the day whenever I've trained and talked to people. And way back when I was teaching at Chapman in 2013, jargon of the day was always a part of the videos, were part of my coursework. And so I have always been, the practical BCBA, and looking at like quality of life for children and families. And that changes as kids get older, right? What is quality of life for a 4-year-old is different than a 15-year-old, is different than a 22-year-old for them and the family members. And so it's always been important to me as part of my any ABA assessment I do to say, like, if we could if we could improve 3 things right now, what would that be to make a very meaningful, impactful improvement over your life? And so our topics kind of work our way through that. And Jen and I found that if you talk to any parent of a child with autism, and I can't say this enough about the BCBAs in our field, they want to know that one, their child is happy, right? Is their child happy, healthy, safe? Right? Are they as independent as they possibly can be? And do they have a tribe that they're a part of? And I heard you use the word tribe. And so we pick our topics from that. And so we'll sort of say, like, well, what is happy for a family right now? One of our best listened to podcasts is Jen's son Ethan as a sibling. Um, he was on our podcast and from a real perspective talked about what it was like growing up with Dylan, what it was like having ABA in his life, and what he thinks his future might be like. And he was brutally, wonderfully honest. And I think that we just, that's how we pick our topics. And sometimes it's whatever's pissing us off right now. We, we,
There's
I,
always a lot.
we just this morning dropped our latest podcast that was called Transitioning into Adulthood or Falling Off a Cliff. Because that's what's happening right now for Big D, frankly.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, for me, it's always, like you said, our kids, we've been doing this a long time, right, Shannon? And, there's all different stages, as Kelly said, and, with starting out, like, learning and then evolving and, year to year, sometimes week to week, things change and, priorities change. What's the immediate like focus to support Dylan and make his life better? Again, make him happy, make sure he's safe. And for me, because Dylan is 22 now, which I can't believe, and Ethan is 20 and away at college, I feel like that we have changed and evolved so much, and Dylan has come so far that, as always, and I think you and I have been this way, Shannon, for a long time, we want to take what we've learned and known and not only help other families, especially younger families or families just starting out on this journey, but also support and help new service providers, especially ABA service providers. Because I think, as we know, just jumping into it as parents, it's like, whoa, what is happening? And, we can't expect for everybody to just have the answers straight out of the gate or understand or know. And everybody with autism is different. So I just, we try to bring that perspective, both as Kelly have been working, including with, knowing Dylan since he was 4, but that whole journey and, how we can support both professionals and families.
Absolutely. And I just applaud you guys for what you're doing. I think that if everybody that watches our show came over and either watched or listened to your show, I think they would be like, "Oh, I've found my other home." I think it makes total sense. And I also want to say too that it can't just be one voice. And I'm always trying to be very careful about the fact that I have an embarrassment of riches in that my son is doing so well, and he's off at college now. I mean, off at college. He's living at home going to college, but I don't want to make it sound like he's in a dorm room because we are not there yet. Mom is not there yet. It's not he could do it, but I can't do it. I can't do it. Um, but I get criticism all the time from people who will write in and say, well, that's all very well and good, but I want to hear stories from kids who have challenges that your son no longer has. And Big D is amazing, and I love hearing all the progress that he's making, but I think that you speak to that audience of people that he's I don't know how to say it politically correct, but he's got some other challenges
Oh, definitely.
that some other kids don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have the sibling piece too. Jem is an only child. I mean, there's just so many different stories that are going to connect with you in a way that look at me and go, yeah, but you're not dealing with that.
Mm-hmm.
And you've also, through a lot of it, been a single parent.
Mhm.
and been through those challenges. You know, your story and mine, we have so many similarities, but there's other places where you're the perfect puzzle piece opposite of
Mhm.
to be able to answer to challenges that people have gone through. So I super love that you guys are doing this. I was so excited when I found out that you were doing this. And I love the topics, and I love that some of the times it's the things that you're ticked off about, because that you bring a level of passion to it, because you guys are like, hey, you know, here's the thing. And it's not just, you know, mild mannered. You guys weighed in. So I super love it. So where can people find your podcast? When do you have a schedule of when you drop new episodes? Talk to them.
We do. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify are the two big ones, Anchor podcast. Um, we, I just wanted to say that the other thing we like to do is we like to talk about stuff that people don't like to talk about, and we like to go through it from several angles. And we spent a lot of time talking about sexuality. And boy, if you haven't listened to that one, we have our friend Barbie Vartanian from New Jersey in there, and we get real about boys and masturbation, and we're three women talking through that.
I love it.
And
I
what that
love it.
looks yeah, what that looks like. But those are the platforms you can find us on. When we first started, we were ambitious and we were doing one a week. As our schedules are getting busy, we're doing one every 2 weeks now, and we drop them on Mondays, every 2 weeks on Mondays. So
Fantastic.
the one we just dropped, the transitioning into adulthood or falling off a cliff, is out right now.
There you go. And what I encourage you guys to do is go, and whatever way that you listen to podcasts, subscribe. And I'm
Mhm.
going to tell you to subscribe for a couple of different reasons. First of all, once you subscribe, then you're not going to miss when a podcast comes, and you don't even have to pay attention. They'll just tell you that another podcast has come, plus which it makes a difference for the podcasters. When you subscribe, you're saying, I've made a commitment. I want to be listening to this. And it's hard for podcasts to stay on the air, you guys, and it helps with
Yeah.
everything the more subscribers that they have. So please go and subscribe. So, and even if you don't watch every single or listen to every single episode, you'll be helping to keep that podcast on the air. So go and subscribe, do yourself that favor, and then you'll get a notification and you'll know what this week's topic is, so that when it's something you're like, oh, I really got to listen to this now, and you'll love it. I love, because I'm back in the car now, and I was missing a lot of things, because in the car I get a lot of stuff done and
Mhm.
listen to things, and now I'm back in the car a lot, so it's wonderful. They want to know, do you guys have a YouTube channel, and do they have to pay to watch your stuff?
We do have a YouTube channel. We don't always put everything that we record on the channel, but some of the highlights we have, you can subscribe and there's no cost.
There we go. There we go. So free download, you know, like I said, pick the place that you like to get, how you like to get your podcast, and subscribe there. iTunes is just easy for me.
Yeah.
So, and I said this for us at the start of the show. I'm going to say this for you guys too. If you want to help this podcast, go in and give them a review on iTunes. The algorithm goes crazy for a podcast when you give a review. It's the best gift you can give a podcaster who's on iTunes. There, I have said that.
Thank you.
Okay, American Amy says, I don't listen to podcasts, I watch YouTube. So, but check out their channel and see. And I would encourage you to give a try to listening to a podcast, American Amy, because even if it's that you're going to take it and go for a walk, it's a super great way to get new information. Tell us again what the name of the podcast is, because it's a mouthful, Kelly.
Yeah. Again, it started off with us just chatting over Zoom and talking about it. So and at one point we were going to change it, but it was what we already had out there. But it is called A 25-Year Look Across the Spectrum, with Kelly
And explain
Bermingham.
why. Explain
So
why it's the 25-year look across the spectrum.
so when I started it 2 years ago, I had been in this field for 25 years. I'm now at my 27th year. I've been working in the field since 1995. And I started in Massachusetts working with adults in helping to close down the state institutions where adults were sent when they were, had any kind of diagnosis. They were put in state institutions. And so I started in 1995 working, helping those adults move out into their own. And so it just started off in the pandemic saying, hey, I had this 25 years of knowledge. Jen has 22 years of experience with her son. Let's merge them together.
Amazing. Johanny wants to know, Kelly, do you think that we should be changing our providers as our kids get older?
I think it depends. I mean, it's always nice to have a fresh set of eyes every few years. I think, Jen, you can probably
Mhm.
speak to that, right? Having a new perspective, even if you don't go with that new provider, getting a new set of eyes and sort of looking at things freshly, I think always is always helpful.
I definitely agree. I mean, for John, things have evolved through the years, his needs, and I wouldn't say just like for ABA, I would say just across the board. And, there's always priorities, right? And for me, there were time frames when, yes, he has had ABA since he was 2, and he had private, and then he had at school. But sometimes is it okay? Is one-on-one better in the household, or is a social skills type of setting more appropriate? Or like now that he's older, like the focus is on out in the community and safety and CBI and self care, and so and again, it's not just ABA. There's times when I'm like, okay, like you can't do it all, right, Shannon? We try. But at some point, you know what? What was more appropriate for him is speech therapy at the time, or
Mhm.
OT, or combining that. So, I think it's always go with your gut. And also, there's a thing of, I mean, when we've been doing this so long, I mean, it's the people you surround yourself with and knowing if it's a good match. I mean, I've had some people. I had one guy that worked with Dylan for 10 years
Amazing.
in our home, and he was great. And in the end, like, there's times I think for me, it's harder to make a break than for Dylan. But it was the time to move on, and he was moving on, but then. I mean, I'm very lucky. Everybody loves my kid, and whoever has worked with Dylan through the years, sometimes it cracks me up because he used to beat people up pretty good, and but they still love him, and even if they don't work with them now, they're still in our lives. They're like part of our family. So I think it's just going with the gut and seeing, like, again, like anything else, what is the best course of action at this point in time.
I can't wait to listen to the podcast that just dropped today because, Jen, you've got to have a unique perspective on this. As since Dylan has just turned 22, you have officially hit the cliff. You're
Yeah.
there. And to hear from you, and I can't even imagine, because I think that's been a really hard time for a lot of people, but to be hitting the cliff right after a 2-year COVID nightmare,
Mm-hmm.
you got to have a pretty unique perspective there. And I don't know. How much do you want to tease about what's on the? People need to go listen to it. I want them to go
Yeah.
listen to it. But
Well,
uh, yeah,
yeah. Just to say, you know, I've always, I've been in professionally in this world now for about 15 years, whether working for nonprofits or for the school district, working with special education. So, I thought I was completely on top of it. And, I did my research, and I worked really hard, and I thought it was going to happen. And, then he just a teaser, the time came and he aged out. And there's, unfortunately, for many different reasons, there's been nothing in place. And I've been like, struggling and fighting with, different entities to get him in an appropriate adult day program. And it is difficult because, you know me a long time. I work full time. I'm a single mom, and I also do a lot of volunteer work for other special needs organizations, and I have a very strong tribe, but the tribe is also exhausted, and there's a lot we can't do physically together still. So yeah, it's been a challenge. I like to try to always be just super positive and look at the bright side, but it's been pretty intense lately.
yeah, I'm sure.
let's
Kelly?
call it, he had this amazing graduation that we both,
Mm-hmm.
we were at. He graduated his adult transition program because he turned 22, and now he's home,
Mm-hmm. So
just home.
it's frustrating. I think what's hard too is, for our kids, my son, he's severely impacted with autism. There's a lot that he's going to need assistance with in many areas of his life, like forever. And I know that, but I've also seen him grow so much, especially I love the transition program and the one he was at.
Mhm.
And he was just doing so much. And he's a guy that, he thrives when he's busy, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know about your kid, but my kid can be lazy too. And so that's what kills me. Like, the longer that I have to wait and, he has to wait, like the more regression that we see and obviously more behaviors. Or just like, I can tell sometimes he's bored. Like, I'm just going to go sleep because, normally I'd be at a job training or, out
Yeah.
at the gym or something. So, I'm still trying to be positive, but it has been crazy because I thought, I was one of the more organized people out there. So it's frustrating,
I know it is that there was this group of pioneers that
Mm-hmm.
went through this journey, and they laid groundwork for our generation, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
And then movers and shakers like you came along, and you furthered the pathway while working with people like Kelly. And that I know it's hard because you're tired right now. You have to be, after everything that you just have been through, and a pandemic, and working and all of those things. But I also know you're a warrior, and that you're going to find, and if you can't find, you're going to create, and that you will change the way people are looking at the cliff, because I know you and I know how you roll. Because you'll find what works for Big D, and then you'll share what it is, and that will help millions of people. So I have to say, I want to be your ally in that, and anything I can do to help you to promote the things that you find. But I'm excited for the world that this is the place that you're at, because I know you're going to make good things happen.
Yeah, I think the first thing that came to my mind, which is going to sound crazy, but you know how I roll, is that when this happened with Dylan, I thought of like all of my friends that are kids just started the transition program, which are many
Mhm.
and many students that I used to work with. And the first thing I thought was, I got to contact or, get it out there to as many people that I know and care about and the kids. Well, they're adults now, but because I gotta say, okay, look, you think like you have 4 years
Mm.
or whatever the birthday to figure this out, but you know what? We gotta start now, and let me use tools or good or bad of situations that are happening to me at the moment, and let me share that with you, but share, like you said, ideas, solutions, so they will be prepared, like to
Yeah.
start as early as possible. Because for me, I started a calendar year ahead. I had a game plan. And then it was like, whoa, what happened? And yes, of course, because of COVID, that's a huge component.
Yeah.
But, I think we all know with, just um, the systems in place right now that, I do think that some entities also use that as an excuse,
Oh,
and,
yes.
and that in some aspect the system is failing our young adults that need services.
Amen. I can't believe it. We're already out of time, and I feel terrible because we didn't get to anything that we wanted to talk about. And Kelly, you just were there at Calaba, and I wanted to talk to you about some of the presentations that you were a part of, and we ran out of time. So we're open invitation whenever you ladies have time. We'd love to have you come back. I admire you both greatly. You're both amazing women in this field, making a big difference on a daily basis, and I love that you're letting us in on the conversation by sharing your podcast. So absolutely remarkable. Telling everybody, go listen to a 25-year look across the spectrum with Kelly Bermingham and Jen Lucero, and subscribe. subscribe, you will be happy that you did. And if you're watching on iTunes, please give them a review. It will help their podcast immensely. I didn't get to all of the comments, and I apologize, American Amy. I want to acknowledge that you talked about how important speech is and that you wished that you had had more of it earlier on, because it helps with all kinds of things, including, but certainly with being understood, which is a very big thing. I also want to say that you asked, is this show on iTunes? And it is. This show podcast iTunes. It should be there either later today or tomorrow. So if you're going there, you can listen to this episode on iTunes, and there you do get the choice of doing video or just audio. So you can take us in the car. It's a great thing. Anyway, I want to thank you ladies so much for being here again and for all the work that you do. We are out of time. I do want to tell our audience that tomorrow, Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is back live for Ask Dr. Doreen. And on Wednesday, Karen Fessel is here with us, another person who was at CalABA and was presenting. And she's going to be talking with us about insurance. And I know everybody goes, oh no, I don't want to talk about this. But I'm telling you, I think when you are empowered with what Karen knows, you get more done. So you do want to be here while we talk to Karen. It might be the most important conversation to make sure that your child gets, or that you get what you need, and that you don't end up in the poorhouse over it. So be here for that.
Karen and I presented together at CalABA this weekend.
And was that the one that you're talking about safety?
Yep.
Or no?
It was on the 26 project. So if people want to go to 26project.org, it's about making sure your home is safe in the event of a fire.
Yes. I mean, we have talked about that project here before on the show, and sometime I should have both of you to come back and talk just about that. But obviously this is something that poignantly was brought to our attention, that we cannot afford to not have that in place. So thank you for the work that you are all doing on that front, because I get so emotional. But it's important for our lives and for our kids' lives. Can't even. But thank you. I have to get us off the air, but we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me, and one for you as well. Bye, Kelly.
I adore you. Miss you.
I adore you back.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me, and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.